What is up, guys? This is Keep It Hoop. If you are watching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. And if you are listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Spreaker, thanks for listening. After a pretty good weekend of basketball, there have been some rumors and some just breaking news about certain moves, whether it's trades, free agent signings. So I wanted to talk a bit about that and some of the games as well. So the Knicks trade Dennis Smith Jr., who wanted to go play for the Knicks G League team to just get some reps in and showcase how good he still can be. He's going to be sent over to Detroit, and the Knicks are also sending over, I believe, a 2021 second-round draft pick. And look, I don't love sending over the draft pick, but I'm not surprised that the Knicks made this trade. Now, it's not my favorite trade overall, but we all know Tibbs and his history with Derrick Rose. Coached him for his prime and a lot of those really good years in Chicago. Was there for Rose's MVP year and also coached him in Minnesota. So Tibbs has been someone who has, kind of just liked to stick with the guys he knows, stick with the guys he trusts. And Taj Gibson was another guy that he brought back to the Knicks. Jimmy Butler's a guy he coached also in Minnesota. So there's a trend of him kind of going back to guys he rode with in Chicago. And that's not, other coaches have done similar things in the past where you get guys who you trust, you get guys who know your system and that sort of thing. And I think, because I didn't think the Knicks would be playing this well, especially this late into the not late into the season, but after 20 games, I didn't think we'd be close to 500. I didn't think we'd be in the playoff race. So were we not in the playoff race, I don't think this trade would have been happening. I think it still would have been monitored because of the tie between Thibodeau and Derrick Rose, but I don't think this trade would have happened. But like I said, the Knicks have been overperforming in a lot of people's eyes, and with them in the playoff hunt, I think management and front office just felt like they wanted to make a move to really get them in the playoffs. Now, getting them in the playoffs is fine. Like, I get a lot of people, it's kind of split, right? Because some people want to see them kind of just tank and go for a guy like Jalen Suggs or Cade Cunningham. But the Knicks are in a situation where they can possibly make the playoffs. And we saw that work out with a team like the Nets a few years ago where, you're a young team and you playoff experience can never hurt. And you get guys to play good basketball, buy into the system, and you just get that experience. And there's people in that camp as well that just want to see the Knicks win and want to see the team do well. Now, I don't really care. Like, I can't control anything. Whatever happens, happens. I would love for the Knicks to have the greatest chance at getting a guy like Jalen Suggs. I'm a huge Jalen Suggs and Cade Cunningham fan. If you haven't yet, go check out the video we've done on both of those guys, breaking down their videos. But yeah, I mean, but I never like the word or just the mindset or the culture of tanking. I get that it's strategically beneficial at times, but I'm someone that just likes being competitive, likes to go out there and play your game, and whatever happens, happens. So I understand both sides of it, and again, whatever happens, it's out of my control, so I'm just gonna ride with the Knicks anyways. But it's the trade itself I didn't like as of now, right? The only way this trade ends up good in my eyes is if we get rid of Elfrid Payton. Now, that's nothing against Elfrid Payton, the individual. I think he's a very solid player. I think he can help out a contending team. But we are now at a situation where the Knicks currently have Derrick Rose, Elfrid Payton, Frank Ntilikina, Emmanuel Quickley, 4 point guards. Only 2 are going to get minutes, like solid, consistent minutes, because Tibbs isn't a guy that plays 13 deep. So he's going to have Payton's probably going to still start, right? Because that's one of the biggest topics the Knicks and their fans have had to deal with this year is, look, Quickly's been showing really good signs. He's been playing good basketball. He's a decent defender, especially for a rookie, and that's always been something that Tibbs has put an emphasis on. He's a above average shooter, especially when you compare him to Elfrid Payton. He's still a good facilitator, can get to the paint. I feel like he plays with a better pace than Elfrid does at times. He can get to the line and shoot that at a high clip as well. So I just wish he would get a chance to start. And Tibbs, for the most part, has been pretty hesitant on even talking about that. He does say things like, "Oh, the situation's open, and we'll take a look at things," but it's never seemed like a reality up until this point. And I don't think people are too surprised. Again, Tibbs is someone who likes to stick with his guys. He has been, he's more of an old school coach, and even when he was in Chicago, he didn't love to play rookies high minutes. Now, bringing in Rose then complicates things even more, as you can imagine. He's a point guard that's not gonna, we didn't get him to do the same thing Dennis Smith Jr. is, which is not play, right? We gave up a draft pick and Dennis Smith Jr. for Derrick Rose, and Derrick Rose is obviously still a very solid player. He's gonna garner, anywhere from 15 to 20, 25 minutes. So those minutes are gonna have to come from someone, and if it's not quickly, then it's RJ, and if it's RJ, then it's even more of a problem. But yeah, I mean, the only way that this trade works for me is if Alfred goes. And maybe then because I think Rose would then come off the bench, because I feel like Rose, because that's what he did in Detroit, he had kind of taken that role as a point guard mentor to Killian Hayes and even a guy like DeLon Wright. And he was kind of flourishing as a sixth man, and he was still putting up good scoring numbers and facilitating at a decent rate as well. Maybe he can do that for the Knicks, and if Elfrid Payton does then move on to a contending team, quickly can rise up into the starting lineup, and I think that would be the ideal situation. Now, there are rumors that there are teams that are actually interested in Elfrid Payton, so maybe there's something in the works. Hopefully that is the case, because I think that is the best case scenario for probably everyone involved. Rose gets to play for a team that's still, in the playoff hunt, reunite with his old coach. Tibbs gets Rose, quickly gets more minutes, and Elfrid Payton probably goes to a more of a contending team, not just a team in a playoff race. And whatever that team he goes to, his role, whatever it may be, would probably be more defined and solid. Because I will say, I've been on, obviously not at the professional level, but whether it's, high school and stuff like that, when your job is unclear on the team, it can be very difficult and annoying. I remember my first year in high school, I went in, thinking I was going to be playing a decent amount of minutes, and then ended up getting, DNPs, and then some games I would be coming off the bench first or second. So it's really difficult to stay ready, and obviously you have to do your best, but it is difficult for quickly. And I think someone put it best on Twitter. There were times when Quickly first started playing really well, he was just making the right plays and just doing the right things on the floor, right? And then recently there have been plays where it looked like he was trying to make a case for why he should be staying on the floor. And if you start playing like that, it's unnatural, and oftentimes it's not the best way to play the game, and it showed. He's still putting up good numbers, and I do still think he's a good player and that he should be starting. But you don't want to put a young player in that situation, because it just I love when Quickly just plays naturally and then just lets the game come to him. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on that situation. Another trade that we've been talking about before even is the Lonzo Ball trade. Now, I wanted to see Lonzo and Golden State swap him for Kelly Oubre. The Pelicans get someone who's kind of young, another slasher, and the Warriors would get Lonzo, who would go perfectly next to Steph. Gives them some more defense, some more rebounding and playmaking. Apparently, the most likely scenario now, or as of now, is the Chicago Bulls, and that is an interesting scenario. I know I like him next to Kobe White and Zach LaVine. Both of those guys are shoot first guys, and not that they can't play make, but that's kind of second on their agenda. Both of those guys are talented scorers, especially Zach LaVine, and I would love to see Zach. I think Lonzo would do well next to them because of that. I mean, Lonzo is obviously a playmaker, a guy who can get up and down the court, find open guys, and make guys around him just continue to run hard and play even better on offense. I think him on defense would add a lot on that team as well, because that's a team that they're not great defensively. I know last year when they had Boylan, they tried to focus a lot on defense. This year they've gone kind of the opposite with Billy Donovan. They focused a lot on a high-paced offense and kind of dish defense. And look, they've been. I said this in one of our videos last week, but the Bulls are a team that aren't as bad as their record suggests. In my opinion, they've had some really close losses, and I think their record should be better. That being said, like Billy Donovan's strategy, or I guess newfound way of playing, isn't the worst. Like, it's working to a degree, but I do think they do need more defense. There are days when they just give up baskets at will, and Lonzo is obviously an above average defender, and I think he could help with that as well as the rebounding. So it's definitely I do like it. It's not I didn't see it coming at all, right? I didn't have Chicago on the radar, but the more I think about it, I do like it. Another Chicago Bulls player, Thaddeus Young, is also attracting interest from contenders. He's having a really, really good season. He missed the beginning portion of the season due to some injuries, but he's come back. And he's been really big for that team. Now, Chicago's been kind of, injured, wounded up. Lauri Markkanen is, I think, going to miss 2 to 4 weeks, and he'll be reevaluated. But Thaddeus Young's actually on my fantasy team. I picked him up, I think, a week and a half ago, but he's been really good. He's been really good for the Bulls, and I remember him talking about how, Thaddeus Young is a veteran. He knows what this is, a business, and he said for now he's just going to focus on whatever his role is, and it's right now happens to be just trying to help the Chicago Bulls win as many games as possible. But I could really see him helping out a contender. He's always been an above average defender. He can rebound, very good playmaker for his size, adds some shooting, but can also score around the rim. Has some floaters, some mid-range jump shots. So he's a team. He's a guy that if you're a contending team, you can give rotational minutes to, and he can contribute right away. There's a few other trades that we have heard about. So there are people around the Raptors organization that think that they should trade Kyle Lowry away and then kind of just start the rebuild process. Lowry, I think, you know what? I mean, I'm with them. I think Toronto, with the start they got off to. Now, last year they did really well in the regular season, right? Kawhi left and everybody thought that they were going to take a huge drop, and their regular season record wasn't, it was still really good. Still really good. And they showed last year, at least, that they had the potential to be a very good team. But this year, they just haven't been able to figure it out. I think they're trying to transition from that old guard to the new one with, they let go of Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka, replaced them with guys like Chris Boucher and Aaron Baines. And you have Pascal, who's been solid this year, but disappointing at times and still trying to figure out how to be the guy consistently. Fred VanVleet, after getting paid, is putting up really good numbers. But Kyle Lowry, still a solid player, obviously, but he's kind of in this area where he's not the go-to guy, but he's on a team that has a chance to be somewhat competitive in the East, but probably not contend for anything higher than a fifth, sixth seed at this point, at least the way they're playing right now. Yeah, I mean, if I'm Toronto, I ask Kyle, look, buddy, thank you for your service. What teams would you like to go to? And I try to facilitate a trade to one of the teams he lists because, look, I do want what's best for Kyle. And even if I am the Raptors, obviously you want whatever is the best return you can get. But I also think after everything he's done, you just don't want to do him disservice. You don't want to disrespect him. You're not going to trade him to the Pistons, right? You're not going to trade him to the Kings. I think it would be a good situation where you can get him to a contender. You get some pieces in return, maybe some draft picks, maybe some depth, maybe some young guys that haven't panned out for a different team that you might be willing to give another chance to. But yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense. And look, I like Kyle Lowry. I'm a fan. Not everyone I know loves the way he plays, but I just think he plays winning basketball. And he's built a really, really, really solid resume for his career. And yeah, I would love to see him play in the playoffs. And I think the Raptors do end up still making the playoffs, maybe as an 8th seed. They're making a resurgent run last couple weeks, but I don't think they'll be in the Eastern Conference Finals or anything like that, especially with the way Brooklyn. And I know they don't defend, but they're still not going to be stopped by anyone. Brooklyn's been playing. Boston's still really solid. Philadelphia looks really good. I don't see them going anywhere. Hopefully Toronto gets the go ahead and deals him. Boston's another team. I know we just mentioned them, but so there's rumblings around the league that Boston is up to something. And that's really interesting. Look, Danny Ainge, and I've been very critical of Danny Ainge. And Danny Ainge was someone that, right, I remember when Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum first made the Eastern Conference Finals without Kyrie. Everyone looked at Boston as the next OKC Thunder, right? They were like, okay, Boston has young talent. They have draft picks coming up. They're already really good. this team might be a team that's going to win multiple rings, a team that we're going to have to fear for the next decade. Now that latter part is still somewhat true. Like they've been really good in the past couple of years, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Jaylen Brown has shown that he's an all-star player, and Jason Tatum is doing what Jason Tatum was doing in the second half of last season. But I've been critical of Danny Ainge because I feel like both Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have gotten better since that playoff run, but the team hasn't. They've made some Eastern Conference playoff runs, but the team hasn't really. They haven't reached the finals, and they've been, and it's a lot. I just blame a lot of it on Danny Ainge. Now I know Brad Stevens deserves blame, and the players deserve blame. Obviously, that goes without saying. But I think Danny Ainge deserves blame because he didn't pull the trigger on any of the moves, and there were rumors that he often overvalues his players. Right, like Miles Turner. That's a move that everybody had linked them to. And the crazy thing is, recently Danny Ainge said they want to look for shooting with size, or size with shooting. Miles Turner fits that description, and Miles Turner is having a season worthy of a Defensive Player of the Year discussion, right? Like he is leading the league in blocks, playing very well this season, and it was reported that the Pacers were willing to do that trade for, I think, Gordon Hayward, and I think Doug McDermott would also be included in the trade. But the Celtics for Gordon Hayward wanted Miles Turner and either Oladipo or TJ Warren. And then Indiana hung up the phone, as they should have. And look at the season they're having. So that's one of the trades that I feel like they could have pulled the trigger on. And I know the free agency thing hasn't really been kind to them either. There were reports that AD didn't even want to talk to them because of the way they traded Isaiah Thomas. They couldn't get KD. Obviously, they didn't get Kyrie back. They've been striking out on a lot of draft picks as well. They were obviously really good with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, but I think a sign of a really good drafting team isn't what you do with the lottery pick per se, but is what you do with the later picks. If you look at it, a lot of dynasties or teams that have just been continuously competitive, San Antonio, for example, that's a team, and even Toronto, I would say, but those are teams that do really well with value picks, right? They get a lot of value from picks in the later ends of the draft, and I think that's an area where the Celtics just haven't been able to get anything out of. You look at a lot of their draft picks over the last 5-6 years, and guys like James Young, guys like RJ Hunter, even guys like Carson Edwards hasn't really done much for them, and Tremont Waters and Taco Fall, I know was, I think, an undrafted guy, but he hasn't really done much, and it just feels like the Celtics have just kind of cruised along and picked up pieces here and there, but nothing's moved the needle for them. And I feel like when you have a guy like Jason Tatum and a guy like Jaylen Brown, and they're in their premiere and they're going into their prime, you have to make the moves to get them a ring, or at least try to. And I don't think Danny Ainge has done anything to really pull the trigger and really show that, hey, we're doing everything we can, right? They've done some things, and I get the Gordon Hayward injury sucked, and that's out of Danny Ainge's hands. And I get Kemba Walker's injury sucks, and that's out of his hands. And Kemba's playing better as of recently, but I think he just deserves more blame, because I feel like a lot of people give him credit for what he's done in the past, but it's like at a certain point, Danny, you got to pull the trigger. You got to pull the trigger. I don't know what you're waiting on, because they're only getting older, and I know they're still young, but like you never know with injuries and stuff, and you just, if the window's there, you got to pull the trigger. And I know I'm no one to really question him. I have no general manager experience. I've never been in the front office position of an NBA team, but I mean, I wish he would do more. But again, the reports are that they're up to something. Harrison Barnes is a guy that's been playing really well, and he's been linked to them. I think that would be a good move. We'll see. They have that really big trade exception. Buddy Hield's another guy that's been rumored to them, but it'll be interesting. I do want to see Danny Ainge make a move, and that's a team that now with Philadelphia and Brooklyn both playing really well, they might have to make a move to really have a chance at reaching the finals. But yeah, that's a situation to keep an eye on. There's also some injuries and free agent signings I wanted to keep an eye on. Nets picked up Noah Vonleh, Knicks legend, by the way, but I think that's a solid pickup. I don't think, again, it's nothing that moves the needle. I think it's kind of like the Shumpert pickup, where it's a guy that'll give you rotational minutes. I think with Kevin Durant out, Vonleh might get some decent minutes, but once he's back, who knows what his role will be. He's a guy that'll give you some shooting, some rebounding, some defense. But again, I still think that for them to really beat the be confident about their chances to beat the Lakers in 7, or just in a 7-game series. I think they're gonna need to make a bigger move, and I don't know. It has to come from the waiver, because, or someone, whoever gets bought out, or someone who we just haven't thought about, that's just out there, because they don't really have any trade assets left. Dinwiddie's a guy that they can look to trade, but he's a free agent after this season, and with his injury, it's not like he can help a team out this year. So yeah, it'll be yeah. I mean, I don't know. I can't really think of who the buyout candidates are off the top of my head. But yeah, no Voleh's a signing they have made. Couple injuries, Lauri Markkanen's injury, and then DeAndre Hunter as well. He has to get, I think, surgery on his torn meniscus, so that'll be a situation to keep an eye on as well for a team that's trying to make a playoff run. And you're probably going to see Cam Reddish pick up more minutes from that as well. So going back to this weekend, some of the games that we had. So from Friday, the Celtics and Clippers played a really big game. Really close one. It was a good game. Celtics won 119 to 115. Like the way the Celtics looked. Kemba was pretty aggressive, and they did that, I believe, without Jaylen Brown. So good for the Celtics. A big win for them. Clippers didn't have PG, so it is what it is. But also, Nicholas Batum played really well. Lou Williams, who was on my list of guys who were the most disappointing player for their team, he's picked it up, and he's been playing a bit better as of late. So overall, good game right there. It was also, let's see, the Wizards lost another game on Friday. Bradley Beal said that the whole team just isn't happy. There's no smiling, and I mean, I don't blame him. What else did we see? The Jazz beat the Hornets, scoring 138 on them. They continue to shoot the ball really well from outside. The Raptors beat the Nets in a close game, and like I talked about, the Raptors continue to play better as of late. So big win for them. The Nuggets lost 114 to 119 to the Sacramento Kings. Now I want to talk about De'Aaron Fox for a bit. I think he's averaging like 28 over his last 5 or something. He's been playing really, really well. His outside shot this year has looked a lot better, and that's just opening things up for him. We always knew how quick he was, but you could always kind of just force him to take that jump shot. But now that the outside shot is going in more, he just has defenders off balance. He's getting to the rim, drawing fouls. The turnovers are a little bit high, but he looks really good. The Knicks ended up beating the Trailblazers. Portland continues to be inconsistent and struggle. The Sixers beat the Nets, but the Nets didn't have Kyrie or KD. The KD safety protocol thing was really weird. But yeah, it was only James Harden really out of the big three, but the Sixers come out with the win. Ben Simmons did a pretty good job on James Harden. James Harden still put up decent numbers, but didn't go off or anything crazy. And Philly gets the win there. Dallas wins 134 to 132 in a game where Luka and Steph went back and forth. Look, if Steph hasn't proved that he's back and that he's still really good, man, I remember guys when he was injured and before the season started, people were talking about how Steph's not the best point guard in the league or not even top 3. It's, man, like I get Dame and Kyrie are really good, but I still have Steph number 1, and like he's showing just how explosive he can be and how good he still is. And I know it's kind of more dependent on how well the Warriors as a team will do and how many wins they get, but he has to be in my conversation of MVPs, at least after that tier of, you want to put Embiid and Jokic and LeBron that I know a lot of people have. But if you want to talk about guys right after that stuff, and I think you can even talk about him in that category as well. Knicks losing to the Heat. It was a really disappointing game for me to watch. It was a game where it was super winnable that they lost. They got a really good performance from Reggie Bullock, which I don't know if I've ever said that sentence before. No disrespect to Reggie Bullock, but yeah, they got a really good game from Bullock and they wasted it. And what was even more disappointing is they lost it, and the young guys barely got playing time, man. Like I'm really, really just, I'm really impressed with the job Tibbs has done this year. I like what he's done with the team and the way he's getting his team to play. But I don't know. Like, you have to find a balance of competing, but also just finding a way to play your young players. Like, man, if you have a close game like that, and RJ Barrett plays 19 minutes and Emmanuel quickly plays 17 minutes, like and Obi plays 10 minutes, like I just don't get it, man. I really don't. And when you lose and you're a young team that's trying to develop players and they don't play, it's rough. It's really rough to watch, man. And good for Miami. They are a team that can take they'll take any win they can get right now. They have to start winning games and start stringing together some streaks because they started off the year really slow. What other games were there last night? I know a lot of the talk was just about the Super Bowl. The Wizards again lost 119-97 to the Hornets. Celtics lost to the Suns, but the Suns have been a team that obviously a lot of people had doing better this year. And Boston went, I think, 2-2 on that West Coast road trip, and Jaylen Brown missed, I think, half the trip. So, I mean, you take that. The Kings beat the Clippers on the back of De'Aaron Fox, again, who's been playing really well. Harrison Barnes also had a good game. And the Jazz take a win over the Pacers. So, that kind of does it for the weekend of basketball. Some good games here and there. Is there anything coming up this week? You have, let's see, Bucks Nuggets tonight actually should be pretty good. Spurs Warriors should be all right. You have the Knicks Heat rematch tomorrow, which I'll be watching. Warriors Spurs again tomorrow. Let's see, Celtics Jazz should actually be pretty good. You have Nets Pacers on Wednesday, should be a decent game. Bucks Suns Wednesday night might be one to watch. Raptors Celtics, two teams that have met in the playoffs in the past, two teams that obviously have competed in some big games over the last few years. Bucks Jazz on Friday should be a decent game. Grizzlies Lakers maybe. I know the Lakers and Grizzlies have had some close games in the past just because of the way the Memphis battles and just kind of grinds out games. Knicks Rockets, two teams who are fighting for playoff positioning in their conference and should be decent. Nets Warriors on Saturday as well. That'll be, KD versus Steph. Always fun to watch. Heat Jazz on Saturday night as well. Could be interesting. I think that's about it for the rest of the week, though, for good games. But, yeah, I mean, there's some decent ones coming up. That'll be it for today. Thanks for watching / listening. If you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, share, and comment on YouTube. You could share this if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you could share it on your social media pages, I'd appreciate it. And also follow our social media pages. It is keep_it_hoop on Instagram and also Keep It Hoop blog on Twitter. We are now at 122 subscribers on YouTube, I think, when it was at 100 to begin last week. So I really appreciate it, guys. We are continuing to think about something we can do as either a giveaway or just a way to show you guys appreciation. So, yeah, let us know if you guys have any ideas on what we could do. But, yeah, thanks again for watching and listening. We will be back tomorrow with probably a video, maybe an article, but probably video. But, yeah, stay tuned, and we'll see you guys soon. Thanks.